Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Pastor Mai, good evening. It's 5:30. This is Update for Tuesday, 5th of March 2024 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes looking at the latest news on the Isle of Man, background to that news and sport and business and Sea Watch and travel updates and the newsmakers in person. This evening, the future of Ronaldsway Airport, the tax cap limit and what to do with it, Public Health Isle of Man's view on fluoridation, Ramsey Commissioners aim to be more engaging, and TT competitor Lee Johnston's broken his leg in Spain.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines, Faster Mai, Siobhan Fletcher.
Faster Mai. The Isle of Man's economy grew by 10.3% between 2021 and 2022, compared with the previous year. It's a rise of 3.4% when taking inflation into account. A new research paper from Public Health Isle of Man has concluded that adding fluoride to the island's water supply would offer a safe and effective intervention to reduce dental cavities, but it states that a more in-depth exploration of the policy will be required. A collection of photos is to go on display at the Isle of Man Airport to mark the 75th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Organised by the One World Centre, the free exhibition features 16 portraits by Vincent Tremue. Further afield, the UK Chancellor is understood to be planning a cut of 2p to national insurance tomorrow in his budget, worth £450 a year for the average person. Experts there are warning the move itself would not be enough to stop the tax burden reaching record levels by the end of the decade. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants for two high-ranking Russian military officers linked to the war in Ukraine. They're accused of directing attacks on civilian infrastructure. And workers in Tesco stores in the UK will be getting a pay rise of over 9%. The supermarket group says starting rates will be just over £12. They're your headlines. News at 6.
Secure tomorrow today with Man Benham's guidance on powers of attorney and more. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Garamaya, thank you, Siobhan from the Ronaldsway Met Office. An earlier strong wind warning is dissipating out in the North Irish Sea. State of sea slight to moderate. And the weather this evening on the island, dry with clear spells. A light to moderate southeasterly. Lowest overnight is 3 degrees Celsius. For Ukraine, Wednesday is dry with sunny spells, a moderate to fresh southeasterly, high temperature 11 degrees. It will remain dry through the night, minimum of 6 Celsius. And for Jordan, dry, bright, sunny intervals in a moderate to fresh east-southeasterly up to 11 degrees. Sunsets in about half an hour's time at 6:05. High tide 8 minutes after 7. Low tide overnight 18 minutes before 2 a.m. Sunrise 7 minutes before 7. High tide tomorrow morning 28 minutes past 7. The mountain road's fine. The boat is on time and no delays at the airport.
Manx Glass and Glazing are proud to be an approved contractor with Construction Isle of Man. Call the team on 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Corporatising Ronaldsway Airport's one of a number of options being considered by the Department of Infrastructure. The Minister confirmed its future is being looked into at today's House of Keys sitting. However, Tim Crookall MHK says any attempts to do so would have to go through Timor.
The Isle of Man Airport Function, Future and Forum, which was approved by Timor in April 2023, the airport is moving from Step 1 of the Steps Change progression to Step 2. This included the appointment of ministerial advisors with specific commercial and aviation expertise to enhance the membership of the Shadow Board. The future operating model of the airport is being considered by the board, one of which is corporatisation in the form of a government-owned limited company. These are, of course, other options, and it will be for Timor to approve any recommendation that is made by the board. Legally, the airport remains a division of the Department of Infrastructure, and thus the board are part of the department and do not have any legal status at this time.
Supplementary question, Mr. Thomas.
Thanks very much. That's very good news, and I welcome the announcement that Tim Wood will be the arbiter as to the need to move from step up the steps in the step transition process. Can the Minister confirm, however, that a great number of staff seem to have received a letter that the senior management team of the Airport Board seem to prefer a corporatisation approach and a commercialisation approach, because a great number of constituents have brought that to my attention. So can the Minister still confirm, I think he has already, but just to make doubly sure, that there's no decision being taken about corporatisation of the airport?
I've not seen a copy of that email, but I have asked for a copy.
There have been calls to lower the tax cap on the Isle of Man, but the Treasury Minister says the island's facing stiff competition from other jurisdictions. The tax cap is the amount wealthy people can elect to pay to settle their Manx tax obligations, and currently stands at £200,000 a year. Dr. Alex Allinson, Treasury Minister, told House of Keys how much money is made from the scheme.
In respect of the 2023-24 tax year, there were 58 tax caps on the island, of which 51 were capped at the current rate of £200,000, and 6 elections were due to end on the 5th of April 2024. Now, at this stage, we don't know how many of these will re-elect to continue with the tax cap, but obviously we should know that later on in the year. So I think when you compare this with the total number of people registered for tax on the island, which is 72,000 people, you see the very small proportion of people involved in the tax cap. But we estimate that those small number of people actually contribute £11.2 million a year in terms of income tax.
Is the Treasury Minister concerned that the Isle of Man only has 58 tax cappers at the moment? If my memory serves me right, going back a couple of years, I think the Isle of Man in one state had over 140 tax cappers. I personally feel that the Isle of Man should be considering to lower its tax cap levels in order to link it to economic benefits, as the Treasury Minister, my colleague from Douglas North, says, in respect of investments, business and jobs, etc.
My information is the tax cap peaked at around about 96 people who elected for this, and it's been decreasing since then. It still remains an attractive option, but as I've said, other jurisdictions have, since the introduction of the tax cap, produced their own initiatives. In comparison, across 20 competitor jurisdictions carried out by the Department for Enterprise, the Isle of Man ranked 12th in respect of our taxation regime, but 3rd in respect of quality of life. And the tax regime has arguably become less competitive due to the rises in the level of the tax cap. However, the broad offering still remains extremely attractive.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300.
TT competitor Lee Johnston suffered yet another injury setback after sustaining a broken leg during testing in Spain recently. In an update on his own YouTube channel this week, the writer explains what happened in the incident and what it means for him with TT just a few months away.
I'm obviously home and stuff now, and I wanted to jump on, and then this is a few weeks later. I wanted to jump on and just say a few things. Firstly, I've delayed in putting this out because I wanted to try and understand the injury and see what was happening. But secondly, I was honestly wary about what people were going to think and say or whatever. So that was the other reason. I just want to make it clear that there was nothing wrong with the bike. Part actually broke, like an R-clip broke on the pad. So it wasn't a mechanical fault to the bike or anything. It was literally a part. So it was no one's fault involved in the bike or anything. Obviously the bike had been back to yard and just literally been serviced by a professional. There was no issue with that, but more of the issue I was thinking of is people are going to say, oh, why on earth is he out there riding another bike or doing that on his own and everything? And honestly, because that was I needed to ride a bike, and that was my only option at the time. We had no other bikes at home in England to use as a team. I was out there on my own because that was the only sort of thing available to me at the time as well, and I wanted to ride. So I wouldn't advise breaking your leg and then getting straight on a plane the next day. From a medical term, I've figured out now that is really not the good thing to do. I got quite a lot of grief off the doctors and stuff when I got back to England to get my operation. So I've got some other vlogs coming up now of what's happened. I've been in for 2 operations since then, the current situation and stuff. So I'm going to sort of do what we did the last time and bring you guys along through the journey and just be honest and transparent and let you all know what's happening and what's going to happen next, and a time frame as to how long I'm going to be injured for and stuff. It's all going to come up in next week's vlog.
Onken commissioners have been discussing how they can make political surgeries more engaging. It was one of the issues discussed at last night's Onken board meeting, and our local democracy reporter Emma Draper was there.
Onken commissioners discussed a report about engagement at surgeries held by the local authority. Board members were told engagement is low, and most email inquiries that come through about them are to do with MHK surgeries rather than the commissioners. Vice Chair Catherine Williams said the local authority used to hold them on a Tuesday evening, but then changed to hold them on the first Saturday of the month to encourage people to go along. A suggestion of house visits was made by Commissioner Anthony Allen, but was turned down over safety concerns, and attending in pairs was also dismissed as it would take too much time to organise. The board settled to move the surgeries to quarterly or every 3 months, and to advertise that the commissioners can be contacted over email or the phone if a resident has a query. At the end of the meeting, under any other business, Commissioner Derek Crellin said a resident had contacted him after a surgery about inappropriate behaviour from Commissioner David Quirk. The surgery was held at one of the sheltered housing complexes in the village, and the resident said Mr Quirk had taken over the meeting. Mr Crellin said board members should be leading by example whilst in public. Mr Quirk disputed this claim. Commissioner Robin Turton said he welcomes all commissioners to the sheltered housing surgeries. He continued and said the commissioners can get a little heated, and sometimes residents can get a little heated if things don't go the way they want. Mr Turton said he would rather people speak their mind at the meetings, but he doesn't think Commissioner Quirk's behaviour was in any way inappropriate. 2 planning applications were supported, one for a borehole for the Cregner Bar pub, and one for an extension to a barn on some farmland. The commissioners also congratulated the village's silver band for coming third in a recent competition.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
Motor vessel Manxman left Heysham at 14 minutes past 2. She'll be into the bay fairly shortly and then into the harbour and Linkspan, departing this evening at 7:45, arriving in Heysham at 11:30. The overnight departure 2:15 tomorrow morning, back to Douglas at 6. And the morning departure for Wednesday 8:45, Manxman heads to Heysham.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
Adding fluoride to the Isle of Man's water supply would offer a safe and effective intervention, so says Public Health Isle of Man at the conclusion of a research paper. They say it will reduce dental caries, but more in-depth exploration of the policy will be required. The story from Amy Griffiths.
The paper looks at the possible benefits of fluoridation as an oral health measure for the island. It was commissioned last year following a report from the Social Affairs Policy Review Committee looking into oral health in children. The committee called for fluoride varnishes to be made available, but Tynwald instead supported an amendment from Health Minister Laurie Hooper, seeking further research into fluoridation as a more cost-effective alternative. This time last year, 17% of 5-year-olds here were said to have dental decay, making it one of the main causes of hospital admissions in the age group. The 89-page report includes a recommendation that a comprehensive picture of the current oral health of children in the Isle of Man, with a report to be presented to Health, Learning and Social Policy Board by August 2024. In addition to this, a feasibility study has been recommended to get a better indication of costs of the setup and ongoing delivery, as well as public and stakeholder engagement and education on the topic of water fluoridation to increase public knowledge and better understand the perspectives of the island's community. In the section titled Limitations of Report, Public Health does acknowledge that if consideration is given to a policy moving forward, engagement with the public is crucial, but it says it would need to be carefully planned and organised to ensure that the public are provided with clear, unbiased information on the topic in order to inform the engagement. You can find out more at manxradio.com.
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 16 minutes before 6, in corporate news, Trustpilot, the Danish consumer review business, racked up strong gains as JP Morgan Cazenove lifted its price target on the shares from 190 to 250. The bank said earnings momentum was set to continue as Trustpilot transitions into a fast-growing free cash flow generator. For a full daily market report, go to ramseycrookall.com. Look at this. The price of the world's largest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, hit a new all-time high of more than $69,000. It surpasses the previous record set in November 21, though by 2022, of course, it had sunk to $16,500. Now, the new surge in price has been spurred by US finance giants pouring billions into into buying bitcoins. The new record represents another dramatic moment in Bitcoin's turbulent history. It was invented in 2009 by a person or persons calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto. The true identity remains a mystery, and conceived as a means to create money for the internet, its roots lay in an anti-establishment ethos encouraging people to live free from the existing power structure of financial institutions and governments. So today, $69,000. Tomorrow, well...
The Stock Market Report. Brought to you by Ramsey Comm.
UK and European stocks closed lower as markets struggled to find positive momentum. US stocks retreated, oil price slightly lower, and gold hit a record high. The numbers from Ramsey Comm at the close in London, the FTSE 100 up almost 0.1% at 7,646. The DAX in Frankfurt down 0.1%, 17,698. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial is down 0.6%, 38,746. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index is down 1.75% at 15,926. The S&P 500 in Chicago down almost 0.9% at 5,085. But the trading day rolls on. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling trading at $1 27 cents, €1 17 cents, and 24 South African rand 11.6 cents. In commodities, gold is up 0.6% at $2,126 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude down 0.25% at $82.42.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Comm later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
2:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Comm's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycomm. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
The Liberal Vanning candidate standing to be a Ramsey Commissioner says she wants to see more social housing built in Ramsey. Pauline Johns-Garrett is hoping to fill the vacant seat on Thursday along with Joe Callister, Sandra Cottam-Shea and Sarah Kennedy-Hay. Here is Pauline Johns-Garrett.
Living in Ramsey and travelling around Ramsey, there's such a lot of derelict land and the place looks tired and run down. A few years ago, Ramsey Commissioners did give businesses a chance to sort of smarten up their premises and that and get them painted up and that, but they're all looking a bit tired again now. And there's places along the Parliament Street there where places are really run down, and some of it along the quayside is quite derelict areas, and they're all just covered over and they don't look very nice at all. And there's areas that are big enough, put in a block of flats. There's opportunity there without going into the countryside and taking more greenfield sites for building houses that quite honestly are out of the range of ordinary working class people, young people that can't afford the houses they're putting up. They're being bought by other people letting out and at very high rents and that, and people can't afford it. Well, that's one of the main issues, is housing for people. Also, the getting to see a dentist is very, very difficult. A doctor's appointment and that, people are finding it very difficult. So this is where they want to extend the boundaries and that. We're saying, well, it's all very well, but you can't manage what you've got now, and people can't get doctors and dentists and that. There's no point in bringing in more and more people if the people that are living here can't get the things that they need.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates. Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. Starting with cycling, and Mark Cavendish's Astana Kazakhstan squad have dropped down 3 places in the team standings to 23rd following today's second stage of the Tirreno Adriatico in Italy. Cavendish himself came home in the travelling peloton towards the back of the order in 171st spot. He had been in contention for the sprint finish until suffering a flat tyre and subsequent wheel change in the closing stages of the race. Astana's highest finisher in the end was Yevgeny Fedorov in a creditable 28th place. Tomorrow we'll see competitors to take on a longer 220km route from Volterra to Gualdo Tadino. In athletics, Jamie Newton and Sarah Webster secured the top spots during the latest 20-mile road race held on Ireland at the weekend. In the 40-lap contest at the NSC in Douglas on Saturday, Newton was victorious in the men's category in a time of 2 hours, 1 minute and 18 seconds. Taking second place minutes later was Matt Callister in 2 hours, 5 minutes and 24 seconds, who just pipped Paul Jennings in third. Elsewhere, Webster's time of 2 hours, 7 minutes and 27 seconds saw her take a commanding win in the women's contest, followed by Dawn Atherton Netherton in second on 2 hours 27 minutes and 18 seconds, with the final podium spot in third going to Joanne Shade. Shade's time of 2 hours 27 minutes and 23 seconds saw her set a new record for the ladies 55 class, whilst there were also new records in the ladies 50 and men's 70 plus classes set by Rosie Crane and Matthew Lunders respectively. And elsewhere in athletics, there was a strong finish for Gemma Aston in this year's Trafford 10k race held on Sunday. The Belgrave Harriers competitor finished 11th overall in 33 minutes and 9 seconds in the senior women's category in a high calibre field of runners. It's an event in which female Isle of Man competitors have shone in recent years, with the 3 fastest Isle of Man 10k road times set there. Rachel Franklin managed her current personal best there of 33 minutes 11 seconds in 2022, while Sarah Aston set a Manx record over that distance in the race last year in 32 minutes 35 seconds.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 7:30 EasyJet from Gatwick's on time, the 5 to 8 Loganair returning patient transfer from Liverpool on time, the 5 past 8 Loganair from London City on time, and outbound 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool on time, 10 past 8 EasyJet back to Gatwick on time. On the roads in Ballasalla, temporary lights on the main road between the Whitestone and Clack Vane for emergency road repairs. You've got temporary lights on the Newcastle Town Road at Santon, now the Mount Murray for carriageway repairs. In Starvey, phase closures for water main work, and the bottom end of Ballabooey Road's closed for ditching work. Part of the Lubes Road's closed between Erie Dam and Kelmslew Hill in Foxdale for patching works, and the bottom end of Mount Gorn Road in Gansey is closed too. Parliament Street in Ramsey closed from Court Road to the end of Bourne Place for repairs to speed ramps. In Colby, phase closure on the Ballakill Ferry for water main work, and temporary lights on the Lazare Road at Kerramore near Sulby for work on the pavements. Between the Cronk and Sandygate, temporary lights on the Ballamona Road for water main work, and water main work 2 in Antrast on the Kiandrocker Road is closed. Water main work 2 on the Ballalai Road south of Kirkmichael. In Douglas, Hillside Avenue is closed through to Circular Road. Still that office window replacement. They'll finish one day. A section of Switzerland Road's closed till November for construction work. Temporary lights at the bottom end of Summer Hill for gas repairs, and temporary lights on Brighton Terrace at the Mount Bradder Junction for gas main repairs, and the matrix signs for the Mountain Road showing fine.
Quayside Tyres and Service Centre with 1 year's free engine warranty from Castrol. Get more with
A Manx charity says people are struggling with their bills and they're trying to keep their heads above water. The Salvation Army has seen an increase in the number of people seeking help from the charity. Michelle and Emily told Manx Radio their course has helped them change their spending habits.
I had a tough year, to be fair, so I didn't know where to go with my finances. I knew I was in a negative budget from the start, and my thing is that I'm worrying about the failure of being able to provide for my children. And my sister died, and I split up with my husband, and everything got on top of me. I just buried my head in the sand. The hardest thing is coming forward and asking for help. You don't even want your friends or close family knowing how bad you're in it. But yeah, with the help of the Salvation, I went to the Salvation Army. I was a bag of bits, I'm not going to lie, but going on this budgeting course, it made me realise that putting things down on paper and having it more organised helped me to sleep better. Still in a negative budget, but because it's all written down, I sleep so much better. My anxiety is not as bad anymore. I'm managing to go out and meet people and speak about the position I'm in now. So yeah, it's well recommended.
Yeah, so my husband and I, we were married for maybe 3-4 years at that point, and we realised we're two very different people with two very different money management skills. So we realised we came into a lot of issues, and we were just like, our marriage is suffering, our relationship with other people are suffering, our mental health suffering, and we're not able to have that lovely marriage that we thought we might have. So that's what made us get in contact. I almost get excited now when income is coming in, because I know where to put it and what to do with it. And I have a dyscalculia, which is almost like dyslexia but with numbers. For me, it was another way to understand finances, but from a different point of view that I could understand. So I recommend it for all sorts of abilities.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
The Manx government's being accused of wasting taxpayer money as the School Hill estate begins to be demolished. Former Chief Minister Tony Brown labelled the move disgraceful, as he says some flats were only built just over a decade ago and remain perfectly usable.
Well, the School Hill estate itself is a very old estate. It was built just after the Second World War, but about 12 years ago they pulled down a couple of houses and built 4 new flats, which were built in the area where these houses were poorly, and they were conscious at that time that they were going to redevelop the whole estate, so it wasn't as if it was a surprise that the rebuild of the estate came later. I don't have any problem with redeveloping the estate as they're doing. In fact, what's being done is very attractive, but I was concerned, and I wrote to the Minister in 2021 about the proposal to demolish these 4 flats which were only about 12 years old, and I just said that I didn't see any logic to that, that it was easily sorted out by amending the plans, and that they could be retained within the development without causing a problem, and thus saving taxpayers a substantial amount of money. I mean, the flats are of value, and I just don't think that anybody in the private sector would have thrown away such value, and I can't understand why it was not determined to retain these flats on the estate, flats that were in good condition, and keep them there without pulling them down. And I just think it's an absolute waste of taxpayers' money.
That's it for Update tonight, compiled from the resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Siobhan Fletcher, producer Amy Griffiths. After the news at 6, Countryside with Kiri Kimwood and Simon Clark. You got the greatest hits with Chris Kinley. An Update returns tomorrow evening at 5:30. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday.
WINT